Day 17. Still stuck in Death Valley. Supplies are low and morale is even lower. Wonderhussy here. That's right. I'm still in Death Valley. And it feels like I'm the only person left on Earth. Because it gets so intensely, freakishly hot out here in the summertime, most people leave for the season starting around May and don't come back until October. And that was my plan too. Matter of fact, that's been my MO for the last 10 years, even when I lived in Vegas. Ever since I became self-employed and in control of my own work schedule, well, I kind of got in the habit of leaving for the summer because it's so friggin' hot in the Mojave Desert in the summertime. Well, I got into the habit of leaving in June and not coming back until after Burning Man in the fall. That's what I did last summer, and that's what I plan to do this summer too, because I'm actually something of a summer fetishist. I love summer. I love the long days, how the sun doesn't go down till after 8 p.m., the way everything is green and ripe and alive. And it's my favorite time of year to go exploring all over the West, sleeping in the back of my car, camping on public lands, all over the place. The mountains, the forest, the coast. To me, summer is an intoxicating nectar, and I just want to guzzle up every last drop. I'm not kidding, I'm a summer freak. I look forward to it all year long. And this year was no exception. Last summer I went to Colorado, so this summer I had planned to go up to Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Oregon, the area around Yellowstone, basically just see as much of the West as I could and shoot as many videos as I could for my YouTube channel. So when everyone started packing up and leaving town at the end of May, beginning of June, well, I set about getting all my ducks in a row to get ready for my first expedition of the summer. I planned to be gone for about 7 weeks. And so I went into Vegas and I bought supplies, all the groceries I would need for my trip. I went and planned all my medical appointments and stuff for later in the summer when I get back. I cleaned out my car. I even made the bed in the back of my car to get ready for the trip. Look, you can see how depressing it is. I have the whole car set up and ready to go. But I'm basically like Cinderella, all dressed up for the ball, but no friggin' Prince Charming or fairy godmother with a pumpkin coach to get me there. Because one of the last things I did before setting out was I took my car into my mechanic to get an oil change and to get sort of a checkup once over to make sure everything was good to go for my summer expedition. And wouldn't you know it, my dang shocks were leaking again. Okay, I'm not gonna bore everybody by talking about my dang Icon shocks for the 575th time. I've already complained about them plenty. I mean, they're fine shocks, they're a fine product. Icon is a fine brand, but they're high-end, kind of like racing shocks. And so I guess because they do move and articulate so much and make for a more comfortable ride, well, they wear more and they need rebuilding every 30,000 miles. And wouldn't you know it, they just happened to start leaking right before I was ready to set on my trip. And now this was back on June 8th, so 17 days ago. So my mechanic goes, okay, everything looks good, your car is running fine, change the oil, cabin filter's clean, blah, blah, blah. I go, okay, so I'm good to go? And he goes, well, your front shocks are leaking. And so the first thing I thought was, oh no, I know these things need to be rebuilt by people at Icon, so you have to ship them back to the friggin' facility and have it done, and it takes a long time. And it's not something you can just get done overnight, and it's not something that just anyone can do anywhere. It's a complicated pain in the ass. And so I thought, okay, well, thank you. I told my mechanic thank you, and I left, and I started thinking about it, like, oh, well, maybe I can just get my shocks rebuilt somewhere along the way on my travels. Like, I was going to go visit my mom for a while, and she lives outside a relatively big city. So I called a few shops up there, but none of them are able to rebuild Icon shocks. It's a very specialized thing, and off-roading is actually more particular to the desert down here. So Then I thought, oh gosh, I really don't want to stay down here any longer, but I suppose I should just have it done in Vegas because there's a lot of off-road shops in Vegas. And I did. I called a couple off-road places in Vegas, but they were booked out till the end of June, and I didn't want to sit around waiting till the end of June. So I thought, you know what? Well, I've been threatening to replace these Icon shocks, which I'm not happy with anyways, with Bilstein shocks. Okay, I've heard really good things about Bilstein shocks. Tons of people have told me they're very reliable. My sister has Bilstein shocks on her 4Runner. And by the way, they never leak. She never has any issues with them. And I've ridden with her in her rig, and it's not like a bumpy or stiff ride. So I thought, all right, I'm just going to have my mechanic replace my dang Icons with Bilsteins. That ought to be faster than getting them rebuilt. Joke's on me. I mean, my mechanic wasn't like overly enthusiastic about replacing these shocks in the first place. I actually asked him like 6 months ago. You know, I was thinking ahead, like, well, you know, my shocks aren't leaking now, but they will leak again, and maybe I ought to take care of this ahead of time and just go ahead and get them replaced with Bilsteins. And so I asked him like 6 months ago, but he kind of talked me out of it because he said, you don't want to put any more money into this car. It already has 170,000 miles on it. They're not leaking. I thought, all right, well, they're not leaking now. I guess I'll wait. Shouldn't have waited. I should have insisted. Anyway, so June 8th, he told me about this, made the calls. Gosh, I think I called him back that same day or the next day and said, look, man, I know you don't think I should put more money into this car, but can you just order the replacement Bilsteins and do that for me? And he said, sure, no problem. He would do it. And he quoted me a ballpark estimated price of $1,500 for the parts and the labor and everything. I thought, well, $1,500, that's a lot of money, but getting the Icons rebuilt is like $1,000 every time that's done, and that has to be done once a year. So if I get these Bilsteins, it's a one-time $1,500 charge. That should last me at least a few years. So I told him to go ahead and please order the parts ASAP. And I think he did. I think he ordered them that day, but he told me, you know, he texted me, okay, but they say the parts are 1 to 2 weeks out for delivery. 1 to 2 weeks? Oh gosh, I don't want to stay in Death Valley for another 1 to 2 weeks. Well, guess what? It's been almost 3 weeks. And the dang parts still haven't arrived. Now, I know a lot of people have been asking me, what's the holdup? I don't get it. You can order shocks real quick on 4wheelparts.com and they'll be here in like 3 days. Well, it's not just the shocks. He has to replace the springs, and I have this lift. It's all complicated. And I trust my mechanic. I've been going to the same guy in Vegas for years, and he's awesome. Andrew at Trusted Imports. I don't think he's bullshitting me. He said he looked around at several different parts suppliers, and they were all about 2 weeks out for delivery. I guess it's something to do with the dang supply chain issues we've been having lately. Dang supply chain issues. I don't even know what that means. Well, actually, I do know what it means. It means I'm not going anywhere. I'm stuck in Death Valley, and I'm really going bonkers. Or maybe getting massively depressed is a better description. I mean, when my sister and her boyfriend climbed aboard his school bus to make their way up north to Alaska last week, I stood out front on the front deck, waving, watching them drive away, and it felt like my heart was breaking into a million pieces. I mean, I was happy for my sister. I'm happy my sister is going to have some fun adventures because she's been working really hard. You know, she's been depressed herself lately, so she needs to go have some fun. But at the same time, I just felt so left out and so alone. And I know I'm being a huge baby about this. It's a classic first world problem. I mean, I have clean drinking water, or at least I have access to clean drinking water. I have a roof over my head. I have air conditioning. And most importantly, I have my health, although I've been drinking so much lately, I'm not even sure about that. Wasting away again in Margaritaville. It's almost, in a weird way, like maybe the universe is trying to tell me something, you know? Like for the last several summers, all I do is run around and distract myself by exploring and going as many places as I can. And it's almost like I'm running away from something, you know? And so by forcing me to stay here, by keeping me marooned, shipwrecked in Death Valley, well, maybe the universe is trying to tell me that I need to stop running and do some self-reflection, you know? Look within myself and figure out what my problems really are. Because last summer, I was pretty depressed, just driving around by myself. So maybe, in a weird way, this is an opportunity. But it sure does feel like I'm locked up. Or shipwrecked. Marooned. Stranded in Death Valley. I know it probably seems like I'm being a little bit melodramatic, but let's go for a little walk, and I'll show you exactly how dead this town really is this time of year. I mean, at least I should be grateful that it's relatively nice weather for this time of year in Death Valley. I mean, yeah, it's kind of windy today. And actually the wind kind of feels like somebody's holding a blow dryer up to my face. But all things considered, it's about 20 degrees cooler than it would normally be this time of year. 20 degrees. I don't know if it's global climate change or El Nino, whatever it is, but it's the silver lining to this cloud. Okay, look, I just walked down to the resort in front of my house. This is where we had our firehouse fundraiser a couple months ago. I was standing in a tent right about there and a bunch of y'all came out to meet me. Well, look, everything is completely shuttered and deserted. I mean, it's like an actual ghost town. Nobody playing music on the stage, nobody cooking up any steak, nobody playing on the playground, nobody camping in the campground. Although actually, it looks like there might be a couple people still staying in this campground. Oh, I guess this is like the staff area where the people who work here live. But golly, I didn't even think anybody who works here was here anymore because nothing's freaking open. Every single restaurant is closed. Even the bathhouse is closed. It's kind of like that song. Nobody on the road. Nobody on the beach. A feeling in the air. The summer's out of reach. Actually, this is kind of interesting. This is the runoff that comes from up above. You can see across the street there. That's the county bathhouse where the county hot spring pools are. The county maintained. There's one for women on that side, one for men on that side. And then all the runoff from that comes down here through the campground and kind of creates this little hot creek. And then there's actually some pretty nice campsites here. Like that one there, surrounded by trees. You know, that one there, you got some shade. But shade and hot spring runoff creek notwithstanding, I really wouldn't want to be camping here this time of year. I don't even want to be here myself this time of year. Look at this. This is the women's side of the county bathhouse. These are the county maintained hot spring pools. And normally I can't shoot video in here because there's all these naked people soaking in the pools. And aside from the hot spring pools, they have showers. This is where I used to have to take a shower when our shower was broken. Remember that? This year has just been one delight after another. This would have been, I think, last December, January, February, our shower was broken. So I had to walk down here to take a shower. I was gonna say every night, but really, that's when I started, or when I stopped taking daily showers. It made me realize I don't need to take a shower every day. I just need to wash my hair every 4 or 5 days. So every 4 or 5 days, I'd have to walk down here to the county bathhouse and take a shower here in this fine establishment, which really it is. It's a good shower. It's good hot water, good pressure. Oh, somebody left their sunglasses in here. Oh, I don't know. What do you think? Somebody might come back looking for them. Although it's probably going to be many months till anybody comes back. Although I guess there are people in town who don't have showers at their house, so they can still come and use the showers. And then there's toilets in here. If you're so unlucky as to not even have a toilet, you can come in here and use the toilets. Even though technically they drained the hot pools. Look at this. They don't even keep the hot pool full of water. I think this is the first year in like 25 years that they haven't kept these hot tubs full all summer long. You know, normally this thing is full of water up to about right there below that railing, and beautiful crystal clear water. This is the water that's running down under the road and coming out in that little hot creek. But before it goes to the hot creek, it runs from this pool, which this is an open air pool. Well, there's another pool in here that's got a roof over it. Oh wow, look, this one's totally drained. Interesting. I thought that first pool drained into this and then it all went out through there, but apparently that first pool must go underneath the second pool. And I guess that makes sense. Because, you know, if you're soaking in here, the last thing you want to do is be soaking in somebody else's ass water, you know what I mean? Well, all that being said, I guess that hot creek is technically 100% pure Rocky Mountain ass water. Or not Rocky Mountain, some kind of miserable baking hot Death Valley mountain ass water. Okay, look, even though it's like in the 90s and I'm sweating my you-know-what off, I hiked all the way up here to the old rugged cross to give you a view of the entire area so you can see what a ghost town it is right now. Not a soul in sight. Oh look, a car coming into town. Oh, could it be? There's people here. Actually, I'm exaggerating. There's a few people here. And I'm lucky in that respect. I have at least a few friends that are still in town. Ross, the one-legged miner, he's still out of the mine. So I could go visit him if I wanted to. And it's always 70 degrees inside that nice, cool mine. And then my friends at Villa Anita, you might remember them from a video I posted a couple weeks ago. One of them is out of town, but the other guy is here. And in fact, I'm going over to his house for dinner tonight as soon as I finish shooting this video. So I guess I really can't complain. Because like I said, it's not like I was super happy the last few summers anyway. You know, I try not to bellyache about this too much on my YouTube channel because nobody wants to hear this. But I'll be honest with you, I don't have anybody, not one single person in my real life that will sit and listen to me talk about this stuff. So unfortunately, if you're still watching this, lucky you get to be the one. I don't know, I've been lonely and depressed lately. And when I say lately, I mean like the last, oh God. I sort of feel like I've always been a very exuberant person, joy. I'm what's the word? Enthusiastic about everything. Like I just have an unlimited reservoir of joie de vivre. Like I can always find something good in everything and I can always have a good time. Well, I sort of felt like my little rubber dinghy of joy sprung a leak sometime around the beginning of 2020. And then, wow, ever since then, feels like I've been sinking and I've been bailing out water as fast as I can. And every time I do get her back up above water, it feels like there's some kind of invisible hand that comes out of nowhere and just pushes me back down under. I'm constantly struggling to keep my head up because I don't want to go gently into that good night, if you know what I mean. Oh, look, here's a payphone. Maybe I can get some answers here. Like if you've ever been to the Burning Man festival, there's this art installation that I think might still be up there. Every year the same guy puts it up. And it's a phone booth out in the middle of the desert, but instead of phone or Pacific Bell or whatever at the top, it says talk to God. And so at Burning Man, when you pick up the receiver, instead of a dial tone, there's another guy at the end, and it's God. And you can tell him anything you want to. You can confess any terrible sins you've ever done. You can tell him your hopes and dreams. You can tell him what you're afraid of, what your heart is truly longing for. And he's just there to listen to you. And I guess give you feedback. I guess there's some guy who rigged it up and he sits in a tent somewhere drinking beer, answering these phone calls all day, and it's his little art installation, and it's all good for a few laughs at Burning Man. But what about for someone who is truly in crisis? Are you there, God? It's me, Wonderhussy. God, I'm feeling just a little bit confused and lost right now. I don't know what to do to make my life go in the direction I want it to. I'm not even sure I know what direction I want my life to go in. All I know is I want to be happy again. I want to patch my dinghy up for the final time and float on off to the horizon with a glass of champagne raised high, a smile on my face, and laughter in my eyes. Is that too much to ask? Hello? God? He hung up on me. Well, I can hardly blame him. He's probably tired of my self-indulgent whining. I mean, like I said, I have a roof over my head. I have clean drinking water. I have my health. What am I complaining about? Oh gosh, look at this. I saw this quarter on the ground, so I thought, oh, okay, yay, a quarter. I'll pick that up. But then I also noticed there's this metal tool that I'll bet you anything some poor busted sap was using to fish, well, either fish quarters out of this thing, or isn't there a way you could, payphones, it's been a while since payphones have been around, so I don't know a whole lot about them, but wasn't there a way you could stick this in the coin slot and somehow hook it on something that would allow you to make free phone calls? Isn't that exactly what this thing was made for? To stick in there? Gosh, that just makes me realize all the more how lucky I am that Well, at least I have a quarter, and I've got a bunch of quarters. In fact, I got a whole thing of quarters in my car because I save them for the water kiosk when I have to go buy drinking water. So at least I'm not that hard up. In fact, the only real problem I'm having is trying to figure out places to shoot new videos. You know, I upload new videos to my YouTube channel every Wednesday, 2 of them, and it's been very challenging to find stuff to shoot in this immediate area that I haven't already shot before. Remember, my shocks are leaking. I'm not really supposed to drive on them too much. Definitely not supposed to off-road drive on them too much. So it's really hard to come up with places to go shoot new videos. I mean, I feel like I've covered everything within a 100-mile radius of this place already. So I'm really having to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Oh, like here's all these RVs that people store here when they're not being used. And this one has one of those awesome maps that you put up to show all the states that you've been to. I guess every time you go to a state, you put a sticker on it. And I think it's funny that they actually have Hawaii and Alaska on here too. And yeah, these stickers are pretty sun-baked and peeled, but whoever's RV this is traveled to a good amount of states. I always wanted to have an RV with one of those maps on it so that I could go around this wonderful country and put stickers on all 50 states, including Alaska and Hawaii. That's my dream, to somehow get my RV to Hawaii. Well, it's just a metaphor for something. And now that I think about it, all these busted RVs stuck here in the middle of the desert are kind of a metaphor for me right now. Or no, maybe this one here, this hippie bus. A busted down hippie bus trapped in the blazing desert heat. Look at this bus. This bus was born for adventure. This bus was born for Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters to set sail to New York City and give acid to everybody they came across along the way. And well, unfortunately, something went wrong. And the dang thing ain't going nowhere. Oh, look, there's something else cool back here. This is, I think it's an old dune buggy. Remember those classic dune buggies? And no, I'm not talking about these razors and side-by-sides, this nonsense people drive around the dunes in today. I'm talking about a classic, old school 1960s dune buggy. Look at this dune buggy. This looks like the Manson family probably rode around in it. You know what I mean? The Manson family did have dune buggies that they rode all over Death Valley. And back in those days, in the late 60s, you could drive pretty much anywhere in Death Valley. It wasn't closed off to wilderness. And so they did. They had these dune buggies that were equipped with like scabbards for all their swords and guns. And well, you know, they had that post-apocalyptic thing going on. So they would just cruise all over Death Valley on these things. I don't know, man. It looks like a lot of fun to me, but it also looks like a lot of headaches to me because I know nothing about mechanics, and this is probably one of those toys that's constantly breaking down. And since I'm perpetually single without a man in my life to help me fix these things, well, maybe that dune buggy would be just a little bit more than I could handle. Maybe this thing right here is more my speed. I don't even know what this is. It's like one axle. It's a dually axle on a trailer, and then it's got this big coupler on the top, like for a big rig, for a tractor trailer. So I guess this hooks up to some kind of tractor trailer. Like, well, some trailer? Oh gosh, but it is a trailer. Oh dear, I can't figure that out. I think this is kind of like a wrecking yard. Like you can see there's a busted car there behind me, rolled over on its side. I think anytime there's a terrible accident out on the highway here, and sadly it happens quite a bit, they just kind of drag the old busted vehicles here and until somebody comes and claims them or they can sell them for scrap. I mean, look at this boss old friggin' Chevy Malibu. Look at this station wagon. That is so sick. Anybody remember riding in one of these when you were a kid? You know, your dad was in the front seat here and he was probably smoking a cigarette, listening to some Ed Ames or somebody like that. Mom was over there in the passenger seat. Junior, you were sitting in the middle there. You were fiddling with the radio. You got to change the stations. Or maybe you were in the back. Isn't that what they used to do with the kids back in the day? Put them in the back of the station wagon. There's you and your brother and your sister and your whole little league team. You know, the whole Bad News Bears just sitting in the back of the old station wagon on the highway headed to Disneyland or Mount Rushmore or Alaska or anywhere but home. Well, at least I'm lucky enough to have a home to come back to, you know? Say what you will about being stuck in Death Valley in the summertime. Well, it could be a lot worse. And I am definitely mindful of that. Now, before I end this video, I know I'm going to get a bunch of emails from people going, well, are you sure your mechanic ordered the parts? Blah, blah, blah. Why don't you just call them and tell them? I don't want to keep pestering this poor guy. I text him every few days going, any word on my shocks? And no, he told me the last time I texted him at the 2-week mark, he said, I'm doing the best I can. I'm sorry. I know. It's just the way it is. So, you know, calling him up and yelling isn't going to help a damn thing. And to be honest, complaining about it on YouTube isn't going to help a damn thing either. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside and I'm going to mix myself another cocktail and I'm going to get dressed and go over to Villa Anita for dinner and try to distract myself until the morning, at which time I will anxiously begin staring at my cell phone, waiting for my mechanic to call me and tell me, hey, your shocks are in. Woo! And that'll be the best friggin' day of my life.